I mean, I forgot. Blood stance, and let's rock.
With your death, this nightmare may finally end. I'm better.
Wow.
Molten One, save me from this unending
Goddamn.
nightmare.
Jeez. Slam builds where? Doko? Mod check? The fuck? Goddamn. What is up, you guys? Koga here again, this time with another banger build, and this build being literally the best build I made this league, which is kind of nice once in a while to see everything just completely get obliterated, since yeah, it's really hard to do this league without stupid amounts of gear. But yeah, if you guys are curious to see how this happened, you know, stick around. But before we do that, I still stream on Twitch every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday if you guys want to support me there and see how these builds are made. On top of that, big thank you to my editor Ichigo for, of course, editing the video you're about to watch or about to continue watching. And his link is down below if you want to support him. Otherwise, if you guys have any questions for what you're about to see, then go ahead and answer or ask away in the YouTube comments down below. And you can also join my Discord channel. And there you can, you know, converse with other people who are in the community, or just ask me questions. It's probably the best spot because I get those notifications instantaneously. Other than YouTube, YouTube's kind of wonky with that type of shit. But yeah, with that, guys, let's move on. And with that, let's go ahead and explain what the fuck just happened and why that damage was so absurdly insane. Part of it is because Rage Vortex is actually disgusting in the way you can scale it, i.e. the skill's busted. So how does this work? Well, Rage Vortex is unique in the fact that it's kind of melee, quote unquote melee. You're literally shooting out a blade vortex that is considered melee, do a fuckload of damage. And the way that you have to use this is with rage. You basically scale a lot of rage, and then you sacrifice a portion of it, and then it gains damage based off that rage, right? So basically what we do is stack a crap ton of rage, because if you read the skill gem itself, it says it sacrifices 20% of the rage to create a rage storm. You need at least 10 rage to do it, right? Because if you know, sacrifice 10 rage, you get 2 rage that you sacrifice only. Kind of shit, because the way it works is that you deal 5% more damage per 1 rage sacrifice, and you get +1 radius, which is basically base AoE, which scales with more increased, you know, or increased or more AoE anywhere you can find it, which is disgusting, which means like that's why it's so freaking big so naturally. I have literally no AoE scaling, and thing's huge, but you get +1 radius per 2 rage sacrifice. So basically, you just want to stack as much rage as possible so that when you're sacrificing it, you know, 20% of it, you're sacrificing as much rage as possible. And you can abuse this with the helmet enchant, which is another 5% of sacrificed rage, basically. So with the helmet enchant and the Rage Vortex gem, you sacrifice 25% of your rage. And in our build, we have well, not over, but we have exactly 90 rage. So when you sacrifice literally 25% of it, it's around 22 rage that you sacrifice. And that's literally 100% more damage and what, like 10 radius? 22 divided by 2, 11 radius, which is gonna get skilled by the AoE and our gems and our tree. It's freaking ridiculous the amount of damage this thing can pull off, right? But what's even more busted about this is that Rage Vortex is literally just a better version of, you know, what's the skill? Blade Vortex? Rage Vortex, Blade Vortex. And Blade Vortex is a spell, keep that in mind. And the reason behind this is because Rage Vortex kind of has a mind of its own, and you just shoot it out and it does a crap load of damage. And on top of this, it scales immensely well with war cries, specifically Berserk. Now, the reason you want to go Berserk is, again, we're trying to stack as much rage as possible. So naturally, you have 50 rage, right? If you get the Ascendancy Crave the Slaughter, you get 10 to your maximum rage. That gives you 60 rage. And if you get Berserking on the tree, it's right next to the life wheel. It gives you a little bit of attack speed, gives you another 10. So now you're up to 70. And if you have some money, because this thing is pretty freaking expensive, you get the belt called Bear's Girdle. Gives you a lot of damage. And fizz damage, which is good because we're fist fire in this build, keep in mind. And it gives you 20 rage. All these things combined, and you have 90 rage. And the way you want to really abuse this so you never have to worry about how much rage you have is using a shield called Red Blade Banner. Now, most of you guys already know what the shield is. Red Blade Banner gives you a crap ton of Warcry cooldown, but also makes you have infinite power. What this means is that when you Warcry, you instantly gain 90 rage. And the reason behind this is because the Ascendancy Warbringer from Berserker specifically states that Warcries gain 10 rage for 5 power if you have less than 25 rage. So if we have less than 25 rage and our Warcry is infinite, or our power is infinite, you essentially have infinite rage when you Warcry. So I won't say infinite rage, but no matter what your max amount of rage is, when you Warcry, you're gonna hit that maximum. So basically, it only takes 1 Warcry to hit 90 rage, which is amazing. Because what we do is then scale a lot of Warcry speed, so it happens instantaneously, so you don't have to worry about the animation of it, and it's like silky smooth. And on top of that, you don't have to worry about cooldown, because 1 second wind gives you 2 charges for the majority of part, and it's stupid. You can just, you can just use war cries. And the reason why it's so good is because I didn't know this before, but war cries aren't only for slam skills. The only one that specifically states it's slam only is Seismic Cry, but Seismic Cry got absolutely shit on this league, so it doesn't even exist in my opinion at this point. And things like Intimidating Cry and Inferno Cry become immensely powerful. Specifically Intimidating Cry. Inferno Cry only works because we're fire, and I'll explain now. Intimidating Cry basically makes your next melee attack deal double damage. It's basically like a Paradoxica. That's why people use it, because it's a decent sword, but you can stack a lot of flat damage, like flat fire, flat physical, and then the sword will do double damage. Well, imagine Intimidating Cry giving you double damage, so then you can just use a 400, 500 PDPS sword with good attack speed and crit chance instead of some fucking shitty ass Paradoxica. And that's what makes it so good, because you can do that. But the problem is it only scales, or it only exerts like what, 3 attacks, and it's only 3 attacks, right? Doesn't really work well when you hit a gajillion times a second. But the thing about Rage Vortex and why it's so unique is that it has a duration tag. Rage Vortex lasts 3 seconds. So if you have 90 rage and then you sacrifice 25% of your rage to then, summon a Rage Storm, if you Intimidating Cried, those 3 seconds of that Rage Storm hitting, basically that entire Rage Storm and its duration, its existence, has double damage. And that's why it's stupid, because for 3 seconds you're doing double damage and you're only exerting like 1 attack. That's why it's so stupid. And then you combine this with Inferno Cry, and Inferno Cry not only does it, make an additional hit the first time you hit the enemy, so you can put combustion on it, to reduce your res. It's just a nice way of doing it, so you don't have to rely on other stupid methods like your totems or something. It's consistent. On top of that, it makes the enemy get covered in ash, and since we have maximum power, it's like 20% extra damage taken, and we don't have to rely on the abysmal chances of exhaust blood, because it says when they hit me, and I rarely get hit, to be honest, because I'm melee, aka cough cough range, but melee, right? Whatever. We're never getting hit really, unless you're just going into melee range for whatever reason. And on top of that, I've been abusing Battle Mage Cry recently, because Battle Mage Cry is basically a trigger, and as long as we Battle Mage Cry, we can then attack, we will trigger a spell. And the spells that we've been triggering is Wave of Conviction for another minus 15% resistance, i.e. fire, because we're Avatar of the Fire, we can only do fire damage, and Immortal Call for basically just super sustain because of a beautiful node. Stupid as fuck. There's a medium cluster called Lead by Example, and this is when you War Cry, you gain Onslaught, so we basically have permanent Onslaught. You don't need an Onslaught Flask. And on top of that, there's one called Mob Mentality. It gives you 25% increased damage, and then you have a 5% chance to grant an Endurance Frenzy or Power Charge per power. Since we have infinite power, when we War Cry, we're guaranteed 1 charge of any. And chances are, like, doing majority of mapping, you have all 3 of them up. So you basically have 3 power, 3 frenzies, and 3 endurance charges. So on top of that, there's also a node in the tree where it's an aggressive bastion. You have a 5% chance to get an endurance charge on kill while holding a shield. So basically for mapping, you're always gonna have endurance charges no matter what. And for that reason, having an Immortal Call that's always kind of like proccing from your Battle Mage Cry is amazing, because it's defense and it's really good. And all those endurance charges makes the Immortal Call last longer. The defenses are actually pretty good with 5.5k life, Fortify on our main link, for taunting and things like that. Berserk is always up basically, because Berserk, you pop it, you gain a lot of damage, and then as the thing degens, the minute you hit below 25 rage, you just War Cry once and you're back to 90 rage, and you just can sustain it forever, because your cooldown recovery of your War Cries is so fast. It's so stupid. And that's pretty much the gist of it. And how do you abuse this? Well, Warbringer says exerted attacks deal 50% more damage if a War Cry sacrificed rage recently, because it says War Cry sacrifice 10 rage if you have at least 25 rage. So to make things easy on you, when you first fight a boss, all you really got to do is put your totems down, right? Intimidating Cry when the boss is active, obviously, to get 90 rage and make him get intimidated for an extra damage taken. Then you use Infernal Cry. Infernal Cry would then sacrifice 10 rage because of Warbringer, giving you 50% more damage, and then making him take more damage because of that covered in ash. And then after that, you click Berserk, and then you freaking Rage Vortex, and you get stupid amount of damage because you have more damage from Totem, more damage, 90% more damage from your Ascendancy, 100% more damage from Rage Vortex. The list continues. It's absolutely abysmally stupid, basically, right? And it's kind of nice because with the fire version, you don't really have to deal with like all the auras, because the only thing we're using is literally 2 heralds, but it's 2 heralds, blood and sand, and then we're also using Arctic armor and cannot be chill boots, so we're immune to freeze and chill as well. So it's very, very nice. Very, very nice, because I basically had no problems with the build at all. Insane clear monster. But that's pretty much the gist of it. Let's go into a, quick boss montage. I literally mean quick. They're gonna melt. And yeah, this thing absolutely obliterated everything in the game. So we'll see you around after that. Catch you guys there. Good enough. Leave slam there.
I cannot do this yet.
That's annoying. Oh, where?
I cannot do this yet.
There we go. Fucking die, dude. I done. I'm gonna teleport you, bitch. Easy. As I expected. Please give me money. Now, welcome back, guys, into the detailed version of the build guide. The character name is actually the same as my Slammer. I just kind of rebuilt them because they're both Berserkers and they're both fire related, so it was really easy to transfer one to the other, right? So it was kind of nice to do that. And let's go into the skill tree very, very quickly. Program will be using Path of Building. Download link is down below if you know what it is. Amazing program to basically make builds without actually putting the time and investment. Absolutely amazing. Now, keep in mind this 9 million damage. Yeah, let me just make this clear for you. This is not including the double damage from Intimidating Cry. That's 6% damage, just the 20% increased damage from this shit. Right? Yeah, for each time you work hard recently. And the intimidating effect of it. The actual freaking double damage is not there. So the damage is way higher than 9 million, just letting you know. So take that for whatever is granted. But essentially, we have 3 trees here. Is the level 93 tree. Let's start from the scratch level 45. The skill rage Vortex is level 28, so you're gonna get it in Act 3. And even then, by then, the first thing you're gonna pick up is Warbringer, so you can at least get some, rage by then. But to be honest, you're probably not gonna use Rage Vortex too much until you start getting your war cries going and the rage. And this shield is what level? 35. Until level 35. So basically, once you get the shield on, you're kind of popping off there. Because then at that point, you're basically getting 50 rage all the time. So that's what I would really recommend to start using Rage Vortex, is you can sustain it really, really easily. Otherwise, it gets kind of wonky. So early on, you can use things like Smite with Ancestral Call and Multi-Strike and, melee phase, things like that. It's really good. You can get an Act 1, both Ancestral Call and Smite. Or you can use Ground Slam, works really well as well. Nothing too hard, really. And here, we're going to primarily prioritize life and things like that. And I want to go for all the war cries first. Because early on, you're going to get Enduring Cry, which is kind of nice just for regen. Just use it. And I think you get Intimidating Cry really early on, too. Now, if you can, I want you to buy every single war cry with Anomalous quality. Because Anomalous gives you 40% extra war cry speed. As you can see here, Infernal Cry, Intimidating Cry, and even Battle Mage. And that makes this so fast.
My mana is gone.
Oh, he's my mana there. But it's so fast. It's so much faster. So that's really the way you want to do it. Scale as much war cry speed and cooldown recovery, so you don't have to deal with any of the annoying how would you say, you know, cooldown and animation lock. So with that, we have this one. Montage gives you a bunch of Warcry speed and cooldown. It also removes ailment, so it removes poison and things like that, which is amazing when you have to deal with poison or ignite. So really, we're kind of ailment immune, and we have freeze and chill immune as well. Without this, so it's really good. So we're basically immune to most elements, if any. Magic freeze is amazing to exert one extra attack, really good. At this point, you want to use swords early on, so if you get some skill crit, it'd be early on is nice. You don't have to really focus on it too much, because if you're using a weapon with really bad crit, then it's not really do much for you, right? We get Bloodless, and we get Natural Authority for even more, you know, Warcry stuff. We get Juggernaut for more live, Barbarism, and Escalation. So you can see we're just getting a lot of Warcry exerted attack damage. So it's probably best for you to use a Slam, and Smite is a Slam, so you could go ahead and use that if you wanted to. But Ground Slam is a very good option as well, right? But that's pretty much the gist of that. And your first thing, please get Warbringer, because at level 35, once you get that shield, you can start using Rage Vortex and start kicking some ass. At this point, right, we get the life, we start going for all the rage. This is basically right when like 74. At this point, you're kind of just set up already, because most of your gear is not high level. All your gear is really not high level. Everything you can wear low level. Even this thing's 64, right? And Bear's Girdle is 68. That's not even required. It's just super good damage. And you can get to pick up a decent, you know, sword. You can pick up, you know, early on On's Might or a not Paradox. Paradox is not going to be useful because you already have Intimidating Cry. Skaven. Skaven's a good one too. So there's a lot of good options, but, you know, the higher the attack speed, the better. And things like that. You want a crit and good fizz. I think ideally 300 plus would be ideal. 350, 400 would be really good. Right, and at this point we just start getting you know, accuracy, because accuracy does become an issue. I have accuracy with my jewel here. If you can't get a jewel, don't worry about it, just drop it for later. Legal Light does come in handy for that. Combat control means that our leap slam, which is our main movement, which we're gonna work hard, you see how fast it is, does not take up an exertion, because there's a lot of times if you don't have this where you didn't do double damage while clearing or something because your leap slam took it, which is really annoying. Right, Lava Lash, because at this point you're Avatar of the Fire with your Ami, and Avatar states that you cannot deal anything but fire damage, so this is basically just a lot of damage in pen, which is really good. Right, from here on here, disemboweling for more crit, and I really want you to prioritize this cluster jewel, because it's our main source of leech. Right, you have life leech there and mana leech. I highly recommend it. I believe we have no other leech, right? No. So if you don't, then you have to go 4 points into here. You can do it early on if you want to, but that's your only other source of leech and mana leech. So if you don't have this large cluster, at least get the medium and get the life leech down there. The medium gives you perma onslaught, and then this gives me basically a bunch of charges. So you can see here, I have no charges. 1 frenzy, 1 endurance, 2 endurance, 1 power. Now I have 2 frenzy. Like, it just stacks up, and you can just keep doing this. 3 frenzies. It's absolutely amazing. Like, I cannot state how good this is for damage and crit and speed. It's just so good, right? Things like that. And then these jewels, you don't have to pick them up if you don't want to. You can leave them blank for now, but this medium cluster is really your priority, and the leech, right? And then at level 93, we basically fill up Slow Steel for more, you know, resistances and armor, because that's a little trouble with a little bit of res, because of this, you know, Thread of Hope here. This Thread of Hope is really good because it gives you versatility for accuracy and dexterity int we're gonna need. It gives you Aggressive Bastion for endurance charge on kill and more damage. It gives you Steadfast for increased fortify effect to armor and more accuracy, speed, and, you know, just damage right here in Blade Master. It's really good note. I recommend it. I got a follow. I didn't expect that, but I appreciate it. I'm offline, funny enough. And then on top of that, this Thread of Hope is amazing because Magmatic Strikes right here. This is basically the majority of your conversion. So remember, we're Fist of Fire, and we can only do fire damage, right? Because we have Hour to the Fire from our, you know, amulet. So this gives me 50% conversion. The gloves give me that I'm wearing is 25% conversion, up to 25, but it's basically 20, and this gives me 40. If you don't have a Thread of Hope, then just do this. Just spend the 2 points. That's all you got to do, right? Because at the end of the day, you're probably not gonna have it till later. So, you know, if I was making a League starter, because I'm probably gonna make a League starter version of this, just pick up the 2 points. That easy. Nothing too crazy, right? And then that's pretty much the sake of that Thread of Hope. It's absolutely amazing. We get more life up here, and we get more jewels with just, you know, life, cure multi, and some fizz damage. Nothing too crazy, right? And then your last tendency is gonna be, I don't know if I mentioned this, but level 74 is gonna be Rite of Ruin. So you get a bunch of basically inherent speed and damage and movement speed, everything you would ever want, right? And also gives you immunity to stun, which is good because we're always above 25 rage. Rarely we go below it, and if it does, it's because we fucked up. But we shouldn't get stunned too often with the amount of life we have and armor. And then level 93, we get the last big boy. Well, not level 3, the last ascendancy. And it's Aspect of the Carnage with your Uber Lab. Gives you 40% more damage. I don't pick it up early because it's just damage, which you're not going to need till later on, really. So that's probably your last one. The other ones are way more noticeable in terms of, you know, speed and feel. That's pretty the gist. It's nothing too crazy. It's just, you know, exerted damage, Warcry speed, Warcry cooldown speed, melee crit, life, and some exerted jewels here. That's really good. That's pretty much the gist of it. And, you know, we'll leave this down below for you guys to see in the link below. And as for your gear, you really want to focus on getting a good sword. You can get like something like this. You know, I bought this surprisingly cheap because I had stuck like hybrid fizz damage, a really good roll too. It's low level, eye level, but whatever. I just can't roll tier 1. But if I hit this up with like multi-mod, I can get it to around 400 PDPS. But I found this one for 3x, which was really nice. And this is around, I believe, 430 or 410 PDPS. But what's really good about it is that it has a lot of crit, or a decent amount of crit, and good attack speed. That's pretty much what I was going for. Nothing too crazy, honestly. And it's really, really good. It's nothing compared to like a 500, 600. But even with like a 300 PDPS sword, I think you'd be fine. Honestly, the damage was so overkill. And here we have, you know, Leap Slam, Berserk, and faster attacks. You know, just so we can leap slam really quickly. We don't need Fortify because we have Fortify here. And Berserk just for the more damage. You get absolutely fucking massive. But here I'll show you a little bit. You see as the rage goes below 25, it gets faster, get back to 90. So you can permanently sustain rage, really. As long as you kind of pay attention to this number and do it every so often. We do, if you're above 25, remember that if you work right, you sacrifice 10 rage, so I can speed it up a bit. But yeah, it's really, really nice, and it gives you so much damage, speed, movement speed, and you take less damage, which is good for defense. For your helmet, you know, life res, I needed dexterity and intelligence, so I crafted that with, you know, the bench. And get the helmet enchant, rage, vortex, sacrifice 5% extra rage. Amazing for damage. Here we have Held of Purity, Arctic Armor, Held of Ash, and Blood and Sand, our auras. No Enlightened needed, good for cheap. This because Enlighteneds are so expensive right now. Rabbit Banner, mandatory in the build, really fucking solid shield, basically sustains your rage and rage vortex damage. Here we have Anomalous Battle Mage Cry, Immortal Call, and Wave of Conviction, so it procs whenever we, you know, use the cry, and then we attack, basically. On top of that, let's go down to our chest piece. Now, I 6-linked this with the intention of basically getting like additional crit. It wasn't required at all. I ended up just rolling this and keeping it. So really just get a decent chest piece that has resistances and life. That's pretty much all you can ask for, really. If you want more damage, you get like additional curse or what can you ask for? You can ask for additional crit with his damage, you know, with an Elder or Hunter chest piece. Something crazy like that. You can choose what you want. You can even do like socket attacks that have minus mana cost, so it's free. You're so choosing, but just life and, you know, res. Just a more expensive base than is really needed. Here we have Immolate. Level 21 was cheap, so that's good. And basically the minute we crit, we ignite and they're burning, and it gives me a lot of flat damage. It's going to be consistent all the way up. Elemental damage of attack skills, Fortify, Pulverize, this AoE and damage, and we keep it for single target because it's not really needed anything else. There are better damage options, but the AoE is really nice for fighting the Maven fights and the Brain Phase and, you know, the Form, the Twisted, the Feared, things like that. Awaken Fire Pen or normal Fire Pen if you don't have the money. And then Rage Vortex, I recommend the Anomalous because it gives you Warcry speed. So this thing, not Warcry speed, it gives you Blade speed. So it moves really fucking fast. And it's really nice for clear speed. Highly recommend. Right. Moving on to our gloves. Here you want attack speed, accuracy, life, and res, and an open prefix for conversion. I got an insane glove on my other character that has, on top of this, 50% increased damage while leeching, which is always up. Ridiculous. I found it off the floor. And they thought you couldn't make mirror tier out of the floor. It was ridiculous, but it's on my other character. But you could use something like that too if you have the money. Good luck with that. But basically, it's just life, accuracy, attack speed, and open prefix for some conversion. Here we have our totems. We have Ancestor Protector, Ancestor War Chief, Vol. Multiple totems, so we can have both of them up. You can see right here. Wrong button. There you go. So you have two different type of totems up at all times, which is really nice. And Wed, just to give them, you know, just so they can do a little bit more damage, because they do a significant amount of damage even on a 4-link. And that gives you a shit ton of attack speed and damage. Boots. Here we have, just get life, resistances, and movement speed. I highly recommend you craft movement speed and can have you chilled. So good. And if you get elusive, go for it, but it's good for just a little bit more movement speed since we're always critting anyway. We don't really need a lot of movement speed because Leaf Slam covers everything really. So keep that in mind. Here we have Second Wind, Anomalous, Intimidating Cry, Combustion, and Infernal Cry. Infernal Cry does do damage. You can see Combust on the bottom, deals attack damage in an area. And basically, this skill is triggered by attacks exerted by Infernal Cry. And exerted attacks trigger Combust the first time they hit. So the minute you hit Rage Vortex and the first hit they do, it will trigger Combustion, which will attack. And if that ignites or crits, this would proc Combustion, which is really nice for some extra damage. It's going to be the majority of the time anyway, because our crit chance is really high and the amount of damage we hit really... It's up. And even if it's not up, like honestly, we have so much damage, it doesn't even matter. Which is really cool. Other than that, we have, as a move on, we covered all this. Our belt Burst Girdle is the best in slot belt. Super amount of damage, but it's extremely expensive, at least this league it was. And if not, you just got a normal res, life, Stygian Vise with like elemental damage to attack skills, things like that. And Circle of Ring, this is really good. I just went for the accuracy one. I think the int also helps out a bit. Yes, you can get some ints if you can. And here I just have double damage, buff effect and fire damage while using Herald of Ash. So it's really nice since we don't really have like a major aura we're using. So solid ring, highly recommend. On our other ring, you want to get an Assassin's Mark on it ring. The dexterity actually came in handy, I believe, too. Yeah. If you can get some dex either through here or through some other things, but you're really looking for a trigger, Assassin's Mark, dexterity, some life, ideally. And that's pretty much it. If you get a minus mana cost, can you fit it in? Please do. It's going to be really nice. But this is kind of a little bit more on the expensive side. The easiest way to trigger this or to make one of these is buy an eye level 85 or higher or 75 or higher ring that's Shaper influence, and then just use Reforged Caster on Harvest. You get it pretty easily. It's just hard to get it with Dex and Life. Keep that in mind. If not, just buy it off the market. They're not too rare. And then the Lost Blood, mandatory, is your main amulet. Gives you Avatar of the Fire, saves all these freaking points all the way up to Avatar of the Fire for free, basically. It's not too expensive these days, but not obviously cheap early on. If I was playing a Soul Self-Found version or something like that, I probably would not go full conversion, or I'd probably just travel up here or something like that. I probably wouldn't go all here and something like that. But if not, I'd probably just stick to Impale, make it easy on me. But it's still a good starter. I'm probably gonna make a version of it. And yeah, it gives you good penetration, and that's pretty much it. Good life. That's the only reason. Just to give you a bunch of points. And your Anointment is Panopticon, so that your little totems give you 50% increased buff. So it's like what? 10% more attack speed. And what's this one do? 32% damage. Half of that, 16% more damage. So it's insane for damage. It's like your highest DPS by far. Just not up always. It's more like a single target Anointment. That's pretty much it. But it's not too expensive. It's a Indigo. What is that? Opalescent and Verdant. This is really nice. Pretty much covers that. As for your flask, you want a life flask that's bubbling or seething, whichever one. It gives you a little bit of instant recovery with immunity to bleed. Bottled Faith would be the best in slot for damage. If you can't pick this up, then just use a Wise Oak or Center Swallow. Ideally, probably a Wise Oak. If not, just use a defensive flask. Your choice. Bottled Faith is the king, though. Diamond Flask, highly recommends you put increased effect on it. Get 20% chance to get a flash charge when you crit, because we're going to crit a lot, because this thing hits a lot. Because it says here, what is it? 250% more frequency with hits. Insane. So you get charges back pretty quickly. And increased crit during flask effect gives you an insane amount of crit off this one flask. Highly recommend. Lion's Roar. More like Lion's Meow, but whatever. Good damage. And then I just have an Amis Flask. If not, I think I used a Quartz Flask with Remove Curses, one or the other. I don't have a lot of Chaos Res, so it kind of came in handy. You can also use Adziri's Promise, but I don't think it's worth the damage. I'd rather have the immunity to curses for defense. Your choice. There's not really a lot of flask other than really just a diamond and Bottle Faith for damage these days. Unfortunately, thank you, GGG. Right? I just lost my damn bracelet. Whatever. It's all going to hell at this point. I think that's pretty much it. As for your Pantheon, you're going to be taking Silver Akali. Get everything. It's amazing. You get basically recovery rate of life, so your leash does more. Reduce effective shock. Chaos resistance. And for your other one, I still recommend Soul Shikari. I had this for Adziri, so I don't die from Reflect. If you don't know that, please do. And it's always like these two, honestly. If I don't need stun, then I'll get this one, but I don't need stun because I have stun immunity from Ascendancy, then I get Silver Akali. It's always these two for me. Because chaos damage is a bitch. And poison too. Right. And that pretty much covers the gist of that. And yeah, I'm not going to do a quick map because I showed you guys map gameplay in the initial start. So let's go right into the outro and we'll end it there. So with that, guys, hope you guys enjoyed. You know, I love the new format of the video. I want to try to end things as quick as possible so the video's not like 40 freaking minutes long. And yeah, it'd be better to show you the map gameplay in the intro than just me talking. And instead of just showing a map showcase, it's going to take me 10 minutes anyway, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed that new format, and probably the YouTube algorithm will like it better too, since smaller videos tend to be more popular these days, I believe. Even my own YouTube kind of happened to me, or my lowest effort video did do the more views, unfortunately, but I just stated the way that it is, and you know, we have to work around the YouTube algorithm as much as we can. So I'll leave with that. If you guys do want the map showcase, or you guys asked for it, or what you guys saw was enough, please let me know in the comments down below. I would appreciate it moving forward. And yeah, I still have 2 builds to come up. I have a cast on crit one and a discharge one. I remade a discharge character. This is one of my favorite characters. Did pretty well, but it wasn't like, you know, amazing as most cases, but it did clear everything in the game except for the feared. It could do it. It could definitely do it, but I got outplayed, to be honest. I got pretty unlucky and I didn't want to reform it again. But it is possible with enough investments and levels, especially. Other than that, I hope you guys have enjoyed what you've seen so far, and you know, I'll catch you guys in the next informative video and detailed build guide. And yeah, thanks for watching. Catch you guys later.